Hello everybody, it is 8 o'clock here in the UK, so I'm about ready to say hello. Welcome to this week's Facebook Live. And I know we have a few new members in here since last week, so I want to introduce myself. My name is Anna Lundberg. I'm the founder of One Step Outside, and the idea here is to really help you to create a business and build a lifestyle more broadly that's going to bring you more freedom, flexibility and fulfilment. And I think we all share those values as something that we're striving for in different areas of our lives. And I'm in here every Wednesday evening, 8 o'clock, more or less. I do my best to stick to that regular time to make it easy for you to join. And I really want this to be a session for you. I'm here to answer your questions, to, create trainings, resources to help you. Hello, Serena. Lovely to see you. Thank you for joining live. Always great to have you here. So I have been asking explicitly, actually, the last few weeks for some questions. I had a few coming in. Last week we answered Holger's question. I've got another one that we're going to be talking about in a moment. But please, please, please send me your questions. I love questions. Message me here directly on Facebook. You can comment. If you want it to be anonymous, that's absolutely fine as well. You can email me. I've even set up a specific email, askanna@onestepoutside.com. That's askanna@onestepoutside.com. And it can be anything about, getting started with your business, growing it once you've already got a few clients and things in place. It can be if you're really at the beginning of the journey, when you're beginning to imagine maybe an alternative to the corporate 9 to 5 and you're just not sure. I even answer questions on romance and health and well-being. I'm here for you. I'll do my very best. If not to answer it myself, then we can also bring in experts from other areas to respond to you. So just the main message being, I'm here for you. I'm really passionate about creating resources and trainings for you, because otherwise, why on earth am I here? And you might as well go off and watch some Netflix instead. So please, please, please send me your questions, and I'll be here every week, creating a training for you, creating a resource, and so on. So this week we have a question which I think comes up quite a bit, and is certainly something that I experienced myself in the early days of my transition and building my business, and that is, how do I know what I should say yes to, and possibly even more importantly, what I should say no to? So this is when you have different opportunities coming along, maybe different jobs, actually full-time jobs sometimes, different business ideas that you have, different both positive and negative feedback and ideas coming from other people, and trying to sort through which of those are the right thing for you and which are not. And I see a lot of people struggle with this, and again, I certainly struggle with it starting out. And I think a lot of that has to do with us not being clear on exactly what it is we're doing, which is fair enough when we're first starting out, and we need a bit of that experience to understand which projects, which clients and so on are a good fit for us and deliver what it is we want. So there is a bit of that experimentation, but I do think we lack a little bit of clarity perhaps on what it is we want, and we end up getting lost. We take on things that we feel we have to because, it brings money, or it's the only thing that's available right now, or I couldn't possibly say no. We have a lot of these kind of fears and blocks that come up. And sometimes we just end up taking on too much. We end up going back to what we've just left. We end up going off in the wrong direction, or we end up just getting very lost and not really knowing how to move forwards. I was listening to a podcast the other day, I can't remember which one it was, but it had a really interesting point about moving from A to B. So if you imagine if you're on, an axis or just a blank piece of paper and you're in the middle, you're point A, you could move straight ahead, or that way, or that way, or that way, and you'd feel like you're making progress. But if you don't know where point B is, if you don't know where you're trying to get to, I hope this makes sense as I point at you on the video, B is over here, let's say, but you don't know that. So you could be moving in this direction or that direction, and you're actually moving further away from point B. So that, of course, is why, and if you've been part of my community for a while, you'll know that's why I talk about defining success, whether it's your business, other areas of your life. It's so important to at least have that direction of where you want to get to, but then really to get clear on those goals more specifically in the short term. And it doesn't mean you're going to have a straight line to that point B, but at least if you know that B is somewhere around there, you can sort of start zigging and zagging, and I've certainly done a lot of that in the last few years. So that's just setting the scene. So very much appreciate the question. It's something I certainly struggled with, and I think it's a really important one to answer. Now, I wanted to give you a few sort of tools and maybe techniques to see if these might be able to help you when you come up against a specific question or project or client that you might want to answer. And one of the things, and we did talk about this last week when we were talking about what to do when you have a business idea, but the first thing I would say is it a good fit for you? And that sounds really simple, but it does mean that you have to know what your definition of success is. You have to know what it is you're trying to create in your life. You need to know, how much money do you need, what are the values, strengths I want to use, and so on in the work that I'm taking on. Excuse me, I'm just going to clear my throat. I've had a terrible cold this week. I think I'm coming out at the other end, but it's been a lot of talking this week on video, so apologies if I make croaking noises now and then. So the first tip for you is really to check it versus, what it is you want. And I don't know if you've seen, and I'll post the link here, I've been talking about this guiding star this week. So I wrote a blog post on Tuesday. There's a full workbook that you can get if you'd like at onestepoutside.com/guiding star. onestepoutside.com/guiding star, and it's a little sort of workbook around creating this star, which is going to hopefully give you that direction to work towards. And it looks at your values, your strengths, the environment in which you'll thrive, and so on. And that's something you can then have up on your notice board, I do, or fold it up in your wallet and put it, and keep it with you safe at all times. And just have it at the back of your mind, really, when you're making these decisions. So just know what it is you're aiming for in terms of the criteria and parameters, and that will help you see if it is a good fit for what you're actually after. So that's the first step, really, to see if it's a good fit for you. The second one, and again, I'm going to draw things here. I should have done this on paper. But the second one is to think about the effort you're going to put in and the reward, the return that you'll get out of it. So the dream, I think, is low effort and high rewards. So that's really what you're hoping for, I suppose, in the long term. That's your long-term goal, that, it'll be something that's easy, that you love, and so on, that brings a lot of return. Now, in the short term, you'll probably have something that takes a lot of effort, but will bring high return, and that's also a very important area. Yes, it'll take more time to build up, but it is going to pay out in the future. So that's sort of where you want to be, of course, on the high return piece. Where you don't want to be is on the high effort and low return. So that's a no-no. Stay away from that quadrant when, it's a lot of effort with a difficult client. They're paying really a low fee, whether it's a freelancing project or something. I've had a few writing projects. One in particular that I took on just before a holiday last year. I got paid, hardly anything at all for something that took me days and days, and that was not good. Hello, Thomas. Thank you very much for joining. Good to see you here. I'm just sharing a bad example of when I took on a project that didn't bring me the return that I wanted. So I was paid for something that should have taken an hour, and it took me days, hours and hours on my holiday, and it was horrible. So I certainly learned from that. But that kind of quadrant of something that takes a lot of effort and doesn't bring a lot of return, you want to avoid being there. And then the final square in that kind of 4-quadrant shape that I'm trying to visualize here would be where you have low effort and low return. And that's okay. If you don't have a lot of projects at the moment, you can do something quick and dirty that brings in a little bit of money. It's not going to be a long-term strategy for building your business, but certainly if it's not a lot of effort, you can do it quickly, then why not if you have the time? But really you want to be focusing on those tasks, projects, jobs, clients, whatever kind of business you're in, that are going to give you the high reward, ideally, of course, with a low effort, but certainly probably when you're starting out, it'll be rather in the high effort, but it will be worth it. So that's another tool. The third one is to think about the time it'll take you to see that return. So I often talk about the transition away from, let's say, a corporate job, and we have that dream of having a business, but a business does take time. It takes time to establish yourself as a credible expert in a new area, to drive your exposure, to get people to know, like, and trust you, as we talk about in marketing now, and to build that. And that does take, a year, if not longer, certainly a couple of years to get the income that you're expecting and hoping for from that business. So in the short term, certainly as a transition, even if it's not what you want to do in the long term, it could be easier to do some consulting and freelancing work. That's something where you don't need startup capital, you use your existing expertise, you apply it right away, and yet it still does take you that step outside the corporate 9 to 5, which you're trying to get away from. So in my case, the first couple of years of work were very much that. So they were doing contract work, really, effectively. I called myself a consultant, but it was really sort of filling a gap, really, in an organisation, doing pretty much the same work I've been doing in my previous job. And that was a great way for me to earn a good salary. Hopefully that's something you can do, part-time, a few days a week. Likewise, if it's freelancing work, you're using your existing skills, whether you've been in PR, marketing, law, accounting, find a way to use your existing network, your existing skills and expertise, and that's the way to get a quick return in the short term. Having said this, of course, if you don't want to be doing that the rest of your life, and maybe you have a plan to gradually move away from that, you do at the same time want to carve out some time to work on that future plan as well. So you do want to, while you're working on those, let's say, PR or accounting clients, you also want to make sure that you're building your business plan, you're taking action and building that exposure and credibility in this new area going forwards. So I hope that's making sense. Do pop in with any questions if anyone has any thoughts or questions on all these tips that I'm throwing out at you. So that was the third idea. And the fourth idea, and this is maybe counterintuitive for us being quite rational and we learn to reason and have pros and cons and look at all the information and so on, but it's actually to trust your gut feeling. And I'm pointing at my heart rather than my gut. And whatever body part it is you feel that your intuition sits in, I really believe that we tend to know if something is right, whether it's a relationship, a location, a job, a client, and so on. Whenever I've taken on something, it ends up not working out, the client doesn't pay on time, or I hate the work, or it's not enough. When I look back, if I'm honest with myself, I realise, I knew that wasn't the right thing. So I tried to, and I'm getting better at it, get better at understanding up front, trusting that feeling, this doesn't feel good, the calls are really uncomfortable, it's taking a long time to get to the proposal or whatever it is. Again, it depends on the nature of your business. But if something isn't feeling right, then probably it isn't right. It could be your values, it could be just sort of the expectations they have, it could be their rate they're proposing. But if it doesn't feel right, I think that's a really good signpost for you to say yes or no to something. I'm just going to pull up, I can't see your full question, Serena, so I'm going to just read what it says. So any tips about finding out which projects ideas will demand more work than what initially planned, therefore reducing the fee? Gosh, that's a really good question, and I think it depends a little bit perhaps on the business. Someone asked a similar question in a Facebook group earlier today, was asking if she should charge a by hour fee or by day, a day rate, or project. And I generally recommend having a project fee, for consulting and freelancing. In her case, it was social media marketing. But of course, exactly as you point out, that requires you to know, or at least have a good estimate for how much time you will spend doing that. So if you've been in business, if you've been doing this social media marketing, let's say for a few months, years, you have a good sense of how long things take. What you don't want is to overpromise. So you say, I'm going to give you these amazing results, and then you get paid for that, and you, again, like me, the fool that I was last year, end up over-delivering, working way too much, and only getting paid for these results there. So I think one thing to say is to get really clear on the expectations with the client. So you may think it's really obvious in terms of, of course, this only includes this, that, and the other. But often I think when you have those difficulties, when you end up working too much, it's because you haven't made that clear up front. So that includes both the actual project tasks. So in that case with the social media, and I'm using that example, it could be, I'm going to post this many times on Facebook every week, I'm going to do this on Twitter, and so on. And then this does not include, marketing budget, of course, for promoted ads. It does not include responding to customer complaints. It doesn't include working weekends, let's say, making sure the parameters are what you want them to be. Other than that, I think that's when you have the experience. The only other thing I would say is sometimes, unfortunately, you will end up, spending more time than you wanted to. That's okay. Other projects you'll spend a bit less. So, as you do more and more projects, you end up specialising, and you'll get much better, I think, at setting the right rates, at setting boundaries as well. That's so important. Someone recently told me, that they just fill the time they have. So sometimes, you end up over-delivering simply because this is the only project I have right now, so I'm going to just put my all into that. So it can be better almost to be busier, because then you physically can't spend any more time. But great question, Serena. I hope that was helpful. But let me know if you have any follow-up questions and we can dig into that a bit deeper. And I was just talking about the gut feeling, and the final point actually that I wanted to close on was around, what if you just, you're agitated and you're busy, and this happens to me as well, you don't know what your gut feels. You don't really know what you want. You've talked to everybody, you're still getting confused and agitated. And my biggest recommendation for you then is to stop thinking about it. So turn off your computer and your phone, go out for a walk, a run, take the train somewhere, take the dog out, have a bath, whatever it is that you like to do. Go and bake, unless that's your job, Serena. So go off and do something else that isn't related to your work, and I guarantee you that you'll actually get back in touch with what you feel, what you want. You'll recognise what's important to you simply from not thinking about it. So I think you just need to sometimes turn off that noise, turn off what's going on, and get back to what's really important. So I hope those were some useful tips. Just to recap, I was saying the first one, and this is when you're getting different projects and clients and ideas thrown at you, how do you know how to navigate, what to choose, what to take on and what to say no to? And the first one is really getting clear on if it's a good fit for you, your criteria, your personal living circumstances, the hours you want to work, the income you need, and so on. And again, that resource that I've been talking about this week, onestepoutside.com/guiding star. Hopefully a useful tool. I've put it up on my board and I'm hoping it's going to guide me as well. The second one was the effort versus the return. So you want, of course, a high return, and ideally low to mid effort, I suppose, would be the sweet spot there. Another thing to think about, the third point, was around the time it'll take you to see that return. So you always want to be thinking, we're in this for the long haul. You may not be able to, let's say, quit your job tomorrow. You may not have a 6-figure business next week, but you want to be building the long term, building your brand, thinking of that bigger vision and definition of success, while in the meantime doing what you need to do to get in that money or whatever it is that you need in the short term. So it is tricky, and we can do a whole other session on balancing that big long-term picture and the shorter-term needs, but that's really what we need to be doing to make sure that we meet our short-term needs while we're building that dream of ours as well. The next one was the feeling, your gut feeling or your heart, wherever in your body your intuition sits. And then finally, hopefully a nice one, turn off the phone, go away, stop listening to me, and go and have a bath or watch some TV or go for a walk. I personally prefer to go outside and get into nature. I think that's the best way to get away from it all. But I hope that was helpful. Again, I want to reiterate that I'm here every Wednesday evening, 8 o'clock UK time, and I'd love to get your questions. You can message me here, comment, ping me on your chosen social network. I'm all over the place. Or you can email askanna@onestepoutside.com. And there are no stupid questions, and I'd be really happy to answer them for you. So thank you so much. Thanks, Serena. Thanks, Thomas, for joining, and hope to see you all again soon. Bye for now. Have a good evening.